Hi and welcome to this video where you join me on Mini number 3 now. So this is a 2009 Mini Cooper D with 136,000 miles on the clock. Now I paid £400 for this as it's got a top end rattle, or apparently the top end's actually gone, and it requires a new engine. So the MOT expired on it last July as well. So these are the Peugeot Citroen derived engines, which in the Citroen or Peugeot is called the DV6. In the Mini it's called the W16, and it's a 4-cylinder 16 valve direct injection with turbo, and the timing belt is the normal rubber one and it's not in oil. So that's basically the engine. Now they do suffer from sort of choking up with the oil again. I think we get like a blow-by on the injectors, which causes like a black sticky tar to come out, and then I think the oil starts to get sort of polluted with carbon and stuff, starts to choke up the little mesh filters inside the engine, and then I think they possibly get the oil starvation, which many new engines seem to suffer from. So that's basically all I sort of know on this engine at the moment. I believe BMW replaced this in 2010 with the N47 engine, which was the diesel. But anyway, so that's basically what this video is about. This is the introduction to the car, and hopefully I'll be able to get it going again. I mean, it does actually run, but actually get it to work properly. And yeah, so hopefully you'll enjoy this video, and many thanks for watching.
So I probably best move a few minis around. So because we had Storm Eunice over the weekend, all my cars were put in the garage. So we just get the black Mini out, which is actually working and on the roads. We'll just pop that one there, and then we're going to get the silver one, which hasn't been on the road for a while now and has a bit of a squeaking power steering pump, as you can hear. Can't see that one going back on the road anytime soon. And then we can go and get this Mini Diesel out of the barn, which is sat alongside the old Peugeot 207 there, which has got a seized engine. This one doesn't sound too good either, sounds very rattly. Okay, so this is Mini number 3, and bodywork wise she looks pretty good. There are a few spots of rust and stuff, but she hasn't been pranged or anything like that. So it is quite a nice looking car, so hopefully I'll be able to sort this one out, because I'd like to put this one on the road. And if we have a look inside, as you can see, it's all pretty clean in there. So it's been quite well looked after for a car that's done 136,000 miles. They obviously had a dog, because there appears to be a dog guard at the back there that's been cable tied on, and the boots, a little bit of mould there from being sat, but we have got all the toolkit there, and the alloy wheel locking nut there, which is very important. Thankfully that's included with the car. So we'll just have a quick look under the bonnet now. So the bonnet catch is on the passenger side on this one, and I've just noticed the OBD2 cover is sat in the cup holder, so somebody's obviously had some diagnostic tools on this car. So there it is, the 1.6 turbo diesel. There does seem to be a bit more surface rust on this car compared to the R50s. And I thought the R50s were actually quite rusty underneath, but this one seems to have quite a bit of rust on the top. So we'll have a quick look at these injectors and see if we've got the classic black tar leaking everywhere. And we do. Trying to get that to focus. Yeah, so we've definitely got some black tar there. But I don't think that's the main issue. That might have been what's caused the issue. But as far as I know, it might be an oil starvation issue. So I think my first thing to be looking at would be the oil. Get the oil out and perhaps see if there's any metal particles or anything in the oil. And take the sump off. Right, so that's the car. And if we just start it up and see what it sounds like and see if we get any errors. So I'm not used to these cars now, these later cars. You actually have to push the clutch pedal in. Come on, the penny's going to drop in a moment. Try pushing the clutch down. It's not going to go till that clutch is down. There we go. So the engine is running. It obviously doesn't sound too great. But there doesn't appear to be any oil warning lights on the dash. Now on the old Minis it came up as a little red light on the main dial. But on this one I think it would appear where the tachometer is, in that square there. So we'll just check this again to see if I do get an oil can symbol come up. So there's definitely nothing there, and you can just about see the what symbols would come up there. And I would have presumed that I would have got an oil can symbol if the oil pressure was low. I mean, it could possibly come on as the engine warmed up, because the oil obviously is quite thick when it's cold. But anyway, best clean the engine bay before it goes into the garage for the work. So I always like to have a clean car before I start working on it. Storm Eunice is still around a little bit. I think you need to put some protective goggles on there. Alright, so now with protection on, it's still blowing away quite nicely there. It was actually going onto the camera lens as well, which was in the garage. But anyway, so spray some gunk on there. Gunk does work better if the engine's actually warm, but obviously I can't really do that with a dodgy engine. Don't want to run it too much. So then what I'll do is I'll just jack this up and we'll have a quick look underneath the car and see what things look like. Now I think the first thing I notice is that the under tray is missing, and she does look somewhat rusty. Look at that pipe going to the clutch slave cylinder there, that was quite rusty. Can't see that lasting much longer. So we've got a normal steel sump by the look of it, which is rusting away slightly. I don't know, the MINI R50 looks like it's somewhat better quality. Mind you, this is after the recession, so perhaps they did sort of cut some corners on certain areas. One thing I noticed was the paint seemed to be a little bit thinner on this car. Didn't seem to be quite as thick as on the R50 either. But anyway, we'll try and get this cleaned off. So what I do is I use hot water with a bit of motorcycle cleaner in one of those pressure sprayers. And I find this can be somewhat effective of getting some of the oil off the engine. So I'll just pressurise that. So thankfully my air compressor is now working, it appears, after I changed the check valve. So the wind is still blowing away quite nicely there. So the hot water with a bit of the motorcycle cleaner in there is quite effective. So it should make things just a little bit easier when I go in the garage, when I come to undo stuff. Because obviously I don't know how far I'm going to have to go with this engine, whether I'll have to actually take the whole engine out. And then I'll go over that with some traffic film remover on the pressure washer and give the whole car a general clean up, get all the mud off, because obviously I don't want it in the garage. And a little bit of a clean there with the brush. And then try and wash it all back off again. So obviously still got the engine bay to do. So we'll just drop this down. It's quite a nice looking car. So hopefully I will be able to get this back on the road. Now the only problem with jet washing the engine bay is you do risk getting water in the ECU or some of the electrics. So you have got to be a bit careful there. And I'll just go over that with some compressed air, just to make sure we don't get any pools of water sat anywhere. It sort of gives it a bit of a dry off. Okay then, so time for the telescopic microphone and the sound recorder. Okay, so I'll pop these little earbuds in so I can try and hear things. And then I'll use one of these old-fashioned Terry Wogan telescopic microphones on my little sound recorder and see if we can pick up some strange noises from the engine bay. Start that engine. Let's see what we can hear. So we've definitely got a nice tapping there. So these have a strange cylinder numbering. So I think this is cylinder 1, as it's a BMW car. So I think it's injector 1 that's tapping away, and then that would be injector 2, 3 and 4. Though with PSA that would actually be the other way round, because they number theirs as cylinder 1 as being on the flywheel side. So although it's a PSA engine, it's actually fitted to a BMW car, so I think BMW turn the numbering back around the more conventional way. I'll have a look in here, see if I can see the cams, see if there's any oil. And there does seem to be some oil, which is good, because all I was told was the top end had gone and it required a new engine. So I'm not quite sure what top end has gone sort of means. I presume it means the cams have worn out or something due to lack of oil. So I'm hoping that if I can just clean all the oil lines and stuff like that, that I might be able to save this engine. So one can hope. But at least runs though. But it doesn't sound very good. Okay then. And finally, best check for any stored error codes in the ECUs. So for this I'll be using an Autel MK808, which I managed to get off eBay second hand. but it seems to be a lot better than the laptop version I used to have that went wrong. It does seem to give quite a lot of information. Actually gives so much information, most of which I have no idea what it means. So sometimes too much information isn't a good thing, not unless you know how to use it. But anyway, so we're going through the motions and see what comes up. There we are, Mini. So with this one, at least it sort of reads the VIN number for you and things like that automatically. Whereas on the old system, you just had to put the VIN number in manually. This is just a simple click of read. Up it comes. And there's our vehicle information there. So we're going for having a look at these error codes now. Now the problem is a lot of these error codes I won't understand without trying to look it up further. So, but at least I've got a record now. I mean, the battery's actually flat on this, so again, perhaps a lot of these error codes could be caused because the battery's actually no good and it needs to be changed. But at least by doing this, I've got a record of everything before I clear the codes. So what have we got on this one that comes up? So we've got a few errors there. But like I say, until I actually sort of reset everything and ideally put a new battery in, but the thing with this is it actually gives you an awful lot of information, and ideally you'd know what you were doing, and that way you could actually use this information to your advantage. Yeah, I think I've got a lot of Googling to do. So I think with this one I will get a lot of live data. What would have been nice would have been to see the oil pressure. But the problem with that obviously is when the engine's cold and the oil's thick, you'll always get a high oil pressure anyway. So it's only when the engine actually warms up that it starts to thin out and the oil pressure will then drop. But I'm going to go with the assumption this is an oil related problem, because I understand with these cars that it's quite important that you actually change the oil on a regular basis. Because of the way they sort of operate. So I think really they should be, the oil is ideally changed every 6 months, using a quality oil, and that way any of the carbon and stuff like that's actually in the suspension of the oil is removed. So I did read somewhere that you don't actually want the oil filter to collect the carbon deposits too much, because it will actually block the filter membrane too quickly. So the idea is with modern oils it actually holds the carbon in suspension, and then when you do your oil change it comes straight out of the bottom of the sump. So if that oil's old, then it's going to eventually start to get to saturation point and start depositing it all around the engine and possibly in the pickup of the sump screen. Yeah. And obviously if it starts to block up the sump pickup, it's going to struggle to actually keep that high flow going around the bearings, and then obviously the bearings are going to start to get damaged, and then that's really the engine sort of finished. So I'm assuming it is an oil starvation issue, but hopefully it's not gone too far that the engine hasn't got any life left in it. So I don't do many miles, so as long as the engine actually runs and I can get it through an MOT, then it'll probably be okay for me. May not be saleable, but would still be a useful car with cheap road tax. So here's one outtake I thought might be worth including.
And I think it's called the W16 for Mini and DV6 for Peugeot. So it's a 16 cylinder, 4-cylinder engine. Oh my God.
So you've been watching Mini Cooper D introduction video that needs a new engine. And thank you for watching, and I hope this video helps you service and maintain your car within your budget. This video was filmed and edited by me, Mark Savage, in February 2022, and I can be found on Instagram and Facebook as Coats and Gators.